I'm joined now by Rachel Nally, owner and operator of the local Apple Cart. I'm so excited you're here. You have an apple cart. It's not an apple cart, but it was an apple cart, but it now is ice cream, all the things. Let's start at the beginning.
Oh, man.
You're an artist, but you didn't start in the artistic world of food. So
No.
tell me about all of that.
So from the very beginning of my life,
You start out in Cleveland?
I grew up in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And I grew up in the inner city of Cleveland, East Cleveland specifically. So it was a very rough neighborhood. And my childhood ice cream shop became my beacon of hope, honestly. I passed it every day going to school, and it became my first job at 14. It was something I could always rely on in a very unstable situation.
Yeah.
It's called Apple Cart. And this place became so near and dear to me that I just knew right from the get-go that I was going to get into the ice cream business. I just always had that thought, like I've always was looking for a location, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And life brought me to Fort Wayne. I have to tell you, I love it here.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that.
I've lived in enough states to know that this place is amazing.
Yeah.
And the first people I met in town were very quick to tell me that you cannot compete with the other local ice cream places, and it would just be a waste of money, basically. And I have to tell you, when you have enough people discouraging you, that your passion, your dream does start to gray out.
Of course.
And I let it get to me. I did for like a whole decade. But every now and then I would still see a spot like, oh, I bet that would be a great spot for an ice cream shop.
Yes. Yes.
A little quick history about the Apple Cart in Cleveland. It did start as an apple stand during the Great Depression and moved over to burgers and malts in the 50s, and specifically 1967, because I have a picture of the neighborhood protesting. It moved over to just a take-out like ice cream place like Zesto's is here in town. And I love that photo. I have it in the shop right now.
Yes.
So back to how the whole idea started.
Yeah.
I wanted to buy an apple tree, but I have no idea how to take care of it. And what I quickly found out is you need 2 apple trees to be able to produce apples.
Okay.
And so the concern was I would have too many apples and they'd be all over my yard. And so I'm like, what should I do? And one of my friends chimed in, sell them at the farmer's market. That's a great idea. Everybody does that. And so that turned into sell them at the farmer's market. Well, they have to be delicious apples. They should be caramel and candied and all these different kinds of apples. And then finally another friend chimed in and they're like, well, what would you call it? And I gave it no thought.
Of course. Yeah.
Apple Cart.
Yeah.
And I called up my former employer and I'm like, hey, is it okay if I can use the name? And at the time, it was just apples.
Yeah.
And yeah, sure. So I contact the farmer's market. They love the idea, just got to get the Board of Health approval. By time I actually call the Board of Health, I have a week off because COVID.
Oh.
It was the beginning.
Yes.
I mean, like, we're days into it.
Yes.
Right now.
We all remember that week where it was just that week. And
I was like, oh, I have some free time.
Exactly.
Let me call the Board of Health.
Exactly. Little did we know.
And she tells me something very disappointing. She's like, we're no longer doing in-home businesses for the farmer's market, even though they do that, and people who started it already are grandfathered in.
Right.
We are only taking food trucks or somebody who owns a restaurant. And so my startup, cost went from $200 to and I looked it up, it was like $100,000 to start a food truck.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, I think I'll give up for about 10 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was it. You just gave yourself a little minute to freak out about it and then you just forged ahead?
It was legitimately about 10 minutes.
Wow.
Like if I had to gauge it, it might have even been 9 minutes.
And then you just thought, okay, we're going to make this happen.
When I started the food truck, at the time it was still apples.
Right.
But if I'm going to have a food truck, I need a part of Cleveland with me.
Yeah.
And so I literally got the smallest ice cream machine you can get on the market.
Yeah.
That's still commercial.
Yeah, sure.
but it couldn't handle, you know, too much of a demand
Yeah.
if I wanted it to.
Yeah.
Because I didn't expect the ice cream to be, I still had that gray area of you can't do this here because we already
It's
have.
oversaturated.
Right, it's oversaturated. In my mind, but I'm like, well, if I'm making these apples and I started selling chocolate covered strawberries and chocolate bananas and just all these fruit items, a little side dish of ice cream is not going to hurt anybody.
Of
right?
course, it would only help.
Right. So I never expected I needed as much ice cream as I did because the market was still asking for ice cream, and specifically homemade ice cream once I started doing it.
Sure.
So I found the biggest, smallest truck I could find, which is actually a rare delivery truck. It was a UPS truck.
Yeah.
And long story short, it was not enough space to provide for the demand.
Yeah.
So what do you do if the other soft serve ice cream trucks in town, which had recently just retired, so I was picking up all of his business,
Yeah.
can fit 40 gallons of ice cream in his truck, which was one of the largest trucks out there. If you've seen the food trucks, his was like double the
Huge,
size.
yeah.
It was huge because you need that for the power of a soft serve machine and to be able to hold the ice cream.
Sure.
How can I fit 40 gallons into a truck that I can only fit 10 gallons into? That was my goal, and I marinated on it for a very long time. And the solution is I have to make it in the truck. I have to be able to make the ice cream fresh
In the truck.
on command. And if I run out of ingredients, I can go to a store that's close by. And so that's what I did. I spent a very large amount of time coming up with this soft serve recipe, which was more difficult than people understand because soft serve is different than hard dip in the fat content. If you put too much fat in there thinking that's going to taste really good,
Right.
which it would for a hard dip ice cream.
Right.
More fat, the better. Like, ooh, this is delicious.
That's my motto.
Right. But with soft serve, if you put too much fat in there, in the industry, it's called buttering out. And then you get these little tiny balls of butter that you think are grains of sugar.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, why is this ice cream grainy? It's little tiny balls of butter that have been frozen in the soft serve because they didn't get the butter content right. And that's why most soft serve nowadays is not even considered ice cream because they can't get it, because you have to have a 10% butter fat for it to be considered ice cream. I want to say it was probably a good 4 weeks before I had the recipe down to where I could have my dry ingredients and my cold ingredients, and I was able to fit 40 gallons into that tiny truck.
Rachel, that is incredible. It's so, the way that you were able to get from A to B to C and so on, every time something, you know, a roadblock came up is so great. Let's fast forward a little bit. So, local apple cart, very successful. Things are going great. You learn how to infuse alcohol into
The
some
same way I learned how to make soft serve. Trial and error and everybody tasting it.
And the whole time, it really does speak to the fact that you have always known you're an artist, because you're creating and you're making it work and you're making things beautiful that maybe weren't before. So tell me what's happening now. You go from food truck and it just keeps getting sweeter, pun intended.
No, I love that. My slogan, make every moment sweet.
Ah, yeah.
So at this point, I have my food truck. I'm established. I'm turning down more work than I'm accepting. I'm the only soft serve ice cream truck in town, which I hear rumors that might change, but that's okay because
Sure.
there's plenty of a market, which I didn't think was the case, but there is. And somebody at Ivy Tech mentions to me that they have this new entrepreneurship program, and at the end of it, you could possibly win $40,000. I'm like, oh, I could totally use $40,000
Who
for my
couldn't?
business. I'm turning down more work than I'm accepting.
Yes.
What are my needs? I need another truck, obviously. At least that's what I thought I needed.
Yeah.
Until I did the program, and I realized what I actually needed was still a physical location.
storefront.
And it goes back to home when I decided to do this. So I went to Cleveland with my family, and we went to the West Side Market. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. This is a real old market. I mean, this thing is like 200 plus years old.
Wow.
you're looking at hundreds of vendors selling the same stuff. So you're going to get the freshest, tastiest fruits. And while I was there, I just look at my son who is on the shoulders of my husband, and I'm like, Fort Wayne needs this. Fort Wayne needs one of these markets. And I say it out loud. I set it into the universe, and within 24 hours, that's when I get this Union Street Market is looking for vendors. And my husband found it, actually.
Yeah.
I had just woke up from returning from Cleveland, and they announced the first vendors. And he was like, look, you just mentioned this, and here they are. And so I didn't even give it a thought. I'm going to be in there. And I knew what kind of success these kind of markets can bring, you know, and that wasn't even my thought. It was just more like, I need to be there. I just knew. And so that's what I did. I was one of the first vendors announced, and it was a long year, don't get me wrong.
I'm sure.
Of planning and getting it all together.
Well, and I think if your history has taught you anything, it's that you can trust your gut, because even though you may have taken a winding road, I mean, my gosh, all of your dreams have come to fruition. So we are so lucky as a city to have you here, to have your artistry, and I am so lucky to have had your time today. Thank you for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Arts in Focus on PBS Fort Wayne is funded in part by